Welcome, Night Anime Recap. Under the harsh rain, women are duking it out in a blood battle using various weapons of their choice. Overseeing their progress is the headmaster, Sister Margaret, along with a number of military men. They all have their eye on Satellizer L. Bridget, who's being surrounded by 11 students. While taking on several enemies at once isn't unheard of, this is the first time the officers have seen a second year taking on this many opponents in one go. Satellizer activates her Volt weapon Nova Blood, and boy, does she make it look easy. And just like that, 9 students are done. And this, Sister Margaret declares, is why they call Satellizer the Untouchable Queen. The Military Academy of West Japan Genetics is where Pandoras, warriors that oppose the dimensional Nova, are trained. Hiragi Keiho gets reprimanded for audibly yawning. Hiragi is one of these Pandoras, and she explains in class what she is. They engrave stigmatas on their body, which equips them with what is called Volt texture. This allows them to activate Volt weapons and surpass the abilities of normal humans. Elsewhere, doctors are struggling to get the injured Pandoras back together by ensuring they activate the stigmata quickly. If it doesn't activate on time, there's a chance their wounds won't even heal. A bloody comparison to what is only taught theoretically in class about how things can just easily fall back in place with little to no scarring. While Yumi Kim is lecturing, Arthur Krypton raises his hand to ask her if she can share her life as an active Pandora with the class. The whole class is excited to know. For years ago, Yumi Kim protected Japan from a Type S. There was an extra-dimensional Nova whose 8th full-blown invasion was known as the 8th Nova Clash. When it came out, it took down an entire fleet without a problem. At that rate, the Type S was sure to arrive at Tokyo Bay in 20 minutes. Yumi spearheaded this operation, leading the rest of the Pandora into the fray. She turned to Elise Schmitz and asked where Kazuya Aoi was. Elise responded that their fellow Pandora was on her way. In the present, a sorrowful Yumi claims that her and Elise's role in that clash was minuscule. The true hero was Kazuya, who had lost her life. Speaking of, Kazuya's brother, Kazuya Aoi, prays at her grave. He recalls how he cried to his sister not to go. However, she stayed true to her calling and said she was doing this for him and everyone she was meant to protect as a Pandora. She and the rest of them are the only ones who can truly defend the people from the Nova. That was the last time he ever saw his older sister. Kazuya gets picked up by a military airlift where he sits with the student council president Chiffon Fairchild. She's here to discuss some things with him before he's fully admitted into the school. You see, a Pandora needs a limiter once they enter their second year. They choose limiters from the underclassmen. Why? Because of a bar. With a projection of a human brain, Chiffon explains that it's a mysterious organ that works on a level far deeper than our neurons and human senses. A Pandora and a limiter use their Aryan bars to synchronize their senses during combat. The synchronization rate is highest between a Pandora and a younger boy. This is why most Pandora's limiters are male underclassmen. This synchronization is called an Arinbar set. This can neutralize a Nova's freezing and ensure the free movement of a Pandora. During the 8th Nova, it was the Arinbar sets of Pandoras and limiters that allowed neutralization fields to be set up. When they couldn't, their forces got decimated by the S-type. Some survived, but their limbs were compromised as a result. Wars with the Nova means that Pandora and limiter can die anytime. Despite this, they have to fight. This was the sacrifice Kazuya's sister had to make. Kazuya Aoi, against all odds, charged into the S-type, vanquishing it at the cost of her own life. Not even their rapid healing can save her from the explosive aftermath. To this day, Yumi remembers Kazuya's martyrdom. Despite this, of course, the threat of the Novas never stopped. This is why students like Chiffon and Kazuya continue to attend the academy. The two eventually arrive at the academy. They're welcomed by Taisi Fennel, one of the student council officers. Suddenly, an explosion happens. It's where Satellizer is eliminating all the students taking her on. She even breaks one girl's arm because she tried to touch her. Like hell is she letting anyone touch her body. The officers watching this are impressed by her performance. Next to face her is Ganessa Roland, ranked 2 in the carnival. The problem is, Satellizer is uninterested in facing her, so she walks away. While Kazuya, Taisi, and Chiffon are walking down the hallway, Ganessa crashes from the roof with her upper body revealed. While she covers herself up, Satellizer appears. From behind, she just looks so much like Kazuha. Overwhelmed with emotions, Kazuya runs up to Satellizer and hugs her, thinking she's his sister. This freaks Taisi and Chiffon out. Out of all the people he can do this to, it has to be the untouchable queen. Their interaction causes a powerful freezing, and Ganessa uses this opportunity to attack. 2. The officers are confused. In carnivals, only Pandoras are allowed to fight each other. However, a powerful freezing was detected on the battlefield. The participation of a limiter is breaking the rules. They detect that the freezing is coming from Satellizer's location. This is the untouchable queen's first defeat, and it's all Kazuya's fault. It seems like Satellizer L. Bridget has finally been dethroned. The school news network has spread her defeat. Now, the Angel of Binding, Ganessa Roland, is the top second-year student. Kazuya feels bad for going out of line and causing Satellizer to lose. His sister is dead. There's no way she would just appear like that. Chiffon explains that carnivals decide the ranking of every Pandora in the academy. Even if there's an accident involved, the results still won't change. Meaning, Satellizer's truly number 2 now. Kazuya asks if there's a way he can meet Satellizer and apologize to her, but Chiffon advises against it. He touched her and buried his face into her chest, for crying out loud. Her advice as student council president is for him to change schools at once. Satellizer is the untouchable queen. She will never forgive someone for touching oh, there she is. Kazuya, not listening to Chiffon's advice, grabs Satellizer's arm. This causes her to lose her balance, given the injury she got from the last fight. She even loses her glasses. Even after she gets up, he keeps on touching her. She airs her displeasure and even takes out a weapon to tell him to back off. Ganessa arrives on the scene and gloats about her win. Someone like Satellizer should just swallow her loss and wait for the next carnival. The best option for her is to just get a limiter or 2 and retire. Ganessa brings out her chains and attacks Satellizer. This time, she'll make sure to scar her whole body in the process. This girl's unhinged. Despite her injuries, Satellizer easily deflects all her chain attacks and strikes her down. To everyone's shock, Ganessa activates her Pandora mode. Chiffon pleads for her to stop since it's only supposed to be used for actual combat. That's the thing, as far as Ganessa is concerned, this is actual combat. Upon getting thrown back, Kazuya catches her. Satellizer is surprised that she doesn't find his physical interaction with her unpleasant at all. She doesn't even pick up her weapon right away. Ganessa uses this as an opening to bind her and unleashes a flurry of attacks. She's just so happy with the results of going into Pandora mode, and now she even beats Satellizer again. To commemorate this moment, she will simply rip off Satellizer's right arm. Kazuya goes in between them and tells her to stop. However, it seems like Ganessa hasn't had enough of the bloodshed. She slaps him away, which makes Satellizer trigger her own Pandora mode. Its powerful explosive energy breaks through Ganessa's chains. With just one move, Ganessa falls to the ground. Before more can happen, Yumi and Elise reprimand Satellizer and tell her to stand down. Man, where were they earlier? Did they just not take Ganessa seriously or something? Geez. Do your job, people. Satellizer complies and goes back to normal. The frankly incompetent, for now, teachers will give her detention. Ganesa celebrates, but the same goes for her. They then see Kazuya, who nods and blushes. Alai sees Kazuya but doesn't recognize him, but Yumi tells her that he's Kazuha's brother. At the headmaster's office, Sister Margaret hands Kazuya his ID and explains to him that the partnership between a Pandora and a limiter is under the discretion of the students involved. She tells him to be a good limiter and to work hard for the Pandora that he will be paired with. Kazuya heads to his dorm and goes to room 302. He's surprised to find no one. His neighbor arrives just in time, though, and introduces himself as Arthur Krypton. It's actually pretty rare for a new student to join in the middle of the year. Kazuya uses this opportunity to ask him about Satellizer. Arthur warns him not to get involved with her because she has a great distrust of limiters. If he gets associated with her, he'll most likely be left behind. Very unlike his own Pandora, who he really loves. He claims that Satellizer is nobody compared to her. She's beautiful, strong, and kind to him. His Pandora is none other than Ganesa Roland. She topped this year's carnival, and he has been looking for her ever since to congratulate her. What a simp. While in bed, Kazuya wonders why she thought of Satellizer as his sister. He just really wants to apologize to her. Somewhere in the school, Kanazuki Miyabi has been informed of Kazuya's presence. As a limiter eater, she wants him baptized. 3. Yumi has Kazuya introduce himself to the class. She asks him to take a seat. As he does, he's surprised that Arthur isn't in class right now. Kazuya's new friend's actually taking care of Ganesa while she's recovering in the hospital. Ganesa is surprised by this as well. But Arthur insists because, as a limiter, it's only natural for him to serve her. Though, he has a question. She just won the carnival. Why was she hospitalized? Ganesa refuses to answer that question. While looking around for a seat during lunch, Kazuha meets Hiragi Keiho, their class rep. He is amazed by the selection in the cafeteria. It's almost like a buffet. Hiragi explains that it's not unusual at all. These students are responsible for the task of taking care of humanity's fate, so it's only right that they're treated well. There's even a stall called Burger Queen inside. While eating, Hiragi asks him why he stood up for someone like Satellizer, the untouchable queen. Kazuya explains to her that he's the reason why Satellizer lost the top 1 rank in the carnival. This means Ganesa only won because she took advantage of Kazuya's blunder. Suddenly, Arthur arrives and joins them. Hiragi whispers to Kazuya that he shouldn't tell Arthur what he just said. She also warns him not to be involved with the untouchable queen if he knows what's good for him. She's bonkers. This time, Kazuya doesn't allow this bad-mouthing of Satellizer to pass. He doesn't believe people should talk badly about someone they barely even know. Suddenly, Satellizer arrives at the cafeteria. As usual, everyone gives her a wide berth. Except for Kazuya, of course. Once the girl's done ordering her food, he grabs her arm, startling her. Everyone's horrified. However, Satellizer's surprised that this interaction doesn't feel unpleasant at all. Still, she leaves her food behind on the ground, so Kazuya gets it for her. He follows her to the roof, where he continues to apologize for the carnival incident. Satellizer reasons that he only helped her, so it's only right to return the favor. She reveals to Kazuya that she usually can't stand being touched by people. But somehow, she's okay with his touch. She can't help but wonder why. Moved by this, Kazuya reaches for Satellizer's hand and asks if he can be her limiter. Satellizer is shook by this. Arthur and Hiragi are behind them, hiding and eavesdropping. Arthur has a bad feeling about this. He warned Kazuya not to involve himself with her. When he introduces himself as Kazuya Aoi, Satellizer immediately recognizes his surname. However, their moment together is interrupted by Kanazuki Miyabi and her limiters. The girl assumes they're having a baptism. This is when a Pandora and a limiter enter a contract to become partners. However, Kanazuki insists they should pick the right time and place because it's such an important event. When asked who she is, Kanazuki introduces herself as the liberator of virtue and also a third-year student. Still hiding and eavesdropping, Hiragi wonders why she calls herself that. Arthur knows Kanazuki by another name, Limiter Eater. Hiragi imparts the rumor mill about her. Kanazuki gets handsome boys as her limiters. Once she's bored, she takes back the stigmata and throws her limiters away. She is not prioritizing the fight against the Novas, that's for sure. Satellizer uses this time to leave, and when told by Kanazuki to greet her upperclassmen, she simply gives her a nod of acknowledgement and walks away. Kazuya gives chase, but the third year is eager to turn him into her limiter. The joke's on her, Kazuya's not interested. He tries to get away from her, but her other limiters block his way. Satellizer brings out her weapon to defend Kazuya, which surprises both Hiragi and Arthur. They cannot believe someone like her is willing to defend a newbie like Kazuya. However, despite her reputation, Hiragi doesn't believe that a second year like Satellizer can defeat a third year like Kanazuki. Kanazuki does a counterattack by slamming Satellizer down on the ground. She then activates her stigmata to summon her weapons, multiple levitating daggers. She tests Satellizer's strength by having the daggers attack her. She easily deflects them. However, Kanazuki suddenly appears behind her. This is called an XL turn, a skill that third years know well. However, she doesn't know that Satellizer can also do this move. After the clash, Kanazuki freaks out, realizing her face has been cut. Satellizer will pay for this. She will humiliate her in every way possible. She performs an arena bar set with her 3 limiters. They cast freezing on both Kazuya and Satellizer. This would make Satellizer unable to move in such an area, especially if she doesn't have a limiter to neutralize her. Except she does. Seeing that Kazuya is still in the danger zone, Satellizer tries to go back for him but gets hit with multiple daggers in the process. Kanazuki grabs Satellizer's blonde hair and pulls her up. She questions how she will atone for the scratch on her face. She doesn't answer, which earns her a punch from Kanazuki. Satellizer only asks for Kanazuki to let the boy go. Kanazuki doesn't, of course. Instead, she orders her limiters to beat Kazuya up. She then interacts with Satellizer's body in the most degenerate manner. They put her in an inappropriate pose and proceed to take pictures to spread throughout the whole academy. This angers Kazuya, and he casts freezing, neutralizing Kanazuki's own and freezing her as well. This shocks Kanazuki. How can a boy like him have so much power? Especially without an arena bar set? Suddenly, Satellizer springs up from behind, ready to exact vengeance. When Chiffon arrives, all she can see are the limiters passed out, their broken phones, and Kanazuki crying on the ground. The president then orders Satellizer to put her weapon away, but she ignores her. Once again, Yumi and Elise are late to the party. Seriously, these two are so incompetent. They gear up to restrain Satellizer with their powers. Kazuya doesn't want that, so he casts freezing on Satellizer. As he does this, memories of his sister before she left flood his mind. He pleads with Satellizer, saying that Pandoras don't exist for the sake of hurting one another. Seeing his sincerity, she recalls her weapon and walks away from the fight. Later, Yumi and Elise discuss Kazuya's unique case. He can perform freezing on his own. They discuss how his sister is a unique genetic anomaly that can incubate over 20 stigmata. Kazuya has the same stuff in him. Normally, males wouldn't be able to access this, but 30% of Kazuya's body structure is stigma tissue. Does this mean Kazuya is aware of it? Elise doesn't think so. This is because normal medical institutions cannot detect stigma bodies. Chiffon asks Kazuya if he's sure that he doesn't want to go to the infirmary. After clarifying that he's alright, She tells him again not to be involved with Satellizer. She has gone too far this time, especially since she took down an upperclassman. Their academy is like the military, rankings matter. Given that a third year got defeated by a second year, the other third years will be forced to act. It's one trouble after another with Kazuya. He just freaking got here, and so many things are already happening. Well, if this academy's accepting feedback, it badly needs some ethics classes and better teachers, that's for sure.